Recently, Volkswagen's product range has been transformed. The Golf has gone from strength to strength, and the new Passat is a huge quantum leap forward. But Carfile this week focuses on the new members of the Volkswagen family that will make the product range more complete than ever before. The sub-Polo size Lupo, the Bora, which is designed to bridge the gap between Golf and Passat, the Synchro system giving grip and performance, and of course the all-new Beetle, which Volkswagen just can't make enough to satisfy demand.
The world's journalists are gathered to take a glimpse at the real Millennium Bug as Volkswagen unveil the new Beetle. Can I ask you about pricing, because we know it's going to be $15,200. How much will we expect to pay when it hits the UK?
Yeah, we haven't fully established pricing and specifications for the UK, but as a guide, I think you can take it that it'll be just slightly more expensive than the equivalent engined Golf, probably starting around £14,000.
It's the people's car, though. It was meant to be the affordable car for everybody to buy. Do you not think it's a shame that it is so much now? Because it's going to be out of most people's pockets, really, isn't it?
The new Beetle is a different car from the old Beetle. It's a new car for modern times. What it does carry over from the old Beetle, though, are the integrity of its structure, the safety, rigidity, reliability, those things that made the Beetle a success in its day.
It was quite extraordinary in the press conference. There was an announcement made that it would be available here in the UK in spring, but it would be exported to the UK later in the year. Why is that? I mean, it's a European car. Why is it not being built in Europe?
The new Beetle is primarily to re-establish Volkswagen's presence to the American market, and if you remember, in January '94 a concept was presented to the public. It was a concept vehicle, a genuine concept vehicle. There's no intention then of building it, and the reaction and the marketing studies were so positive that the car is now going on sale.
Why not build it in Europe? Is it just purely economic reasons? Is it cheaper to build the cars on this side of the world?
Volkswagen actually builds cars and components all around the world, and even the cars that are built in Europe might have engines, for example, built in China. So Volkswagen has production facilities absolutely everywhere, and it combines its products by transporting components from one place to another, and it builds and purchases on a world basis.
The reaction from the American media seems to have been incredible. If sales take off over here, and if everybody wants the new Beetle, is that likely to delay the sale and the release of the Beetle in Europe?
It might do a little. It depends on the ramp up of production and demand. And it's not only the American media. You know yourself that there are even UK media who've ordered the car, placed orders.
Well, my relative thinks he has. I don't know, has he really?
No, he was the first person to hand to me a written order for a new Beetle, yes, when it was announced that it went on sale. And there were several other members of the media who were right behind him as well.
You're witnessing a little bit of modern motoring history. Hundreds, possibly thousands of us media tarts attending the launch of the most intriguing car of the 1990s. And as day breaks here in the heart of the American Bible Belt, the cars you see here will probably end up in collections and museums around the world, because they are in fact the very first new Beetles ever to venture out onto public roads anywhere in the world. Of course, there are plenty more where those come from. The new Beetle factory in Mexico is working overtime, churning out as many bugs as it possibly can, trying to satisfy demand in America, where sales start this spring. Then there's a little matter of building cars for Germany and 101 other markets around the globe too. Now, the Beetle will be such a late arrival in British showrooms for one very simple reason. Left-hand drive versions are the priority and are built first. Right hookers, the ones we want, will be made when the Mexicans get around to it. Like I say, they're promising to lay off the tequila and the tacos and start deliveries to the UK by early 1999. But don't hold your breath, I reckon they'll be later than that. As you can see, the front end of the new Beetle looks remarkably similar to the original, if you ignore those classy Porsche 911-like headlamps for a moment. And the car looks especially good in this magnificent metallic silver. But no matter what shade the car is, its side and rear views are absolutely spot on. But anybody who dares criticise the new Beetle's architecture is off their trolley. The hard-to-impress journalists from around the world are saying that, and so are the top designers who don't even work for VW but admire the new Beetle enormously. And most important of all, the ordinary men and women in the street loved this car when they saw it in and around Atlanta. It didn't matter whether they were rednecks and good old boys in pickup trucks, or they were office girls in their cheap sports cars. They all fell in love with the new Beetle, male or female. And I have to say, so did I. The overall appearance gets a 10 out of 10. The interior is too lavishly equipped, I ask you. Illuminated vanity mirrors in a Beetle. But most of it's very tastefully done, and the solitary dial, including the speedo, rev counter and fuel gauge, is brilliantly simple and very, very well designed. Turn the ignition key and there's virtual silence. Remember, the new Beetle is a Golf under the skin, and that means a super quiet front-mounted power pack. In fact, too quiet for my liking. The appeal of the original Beetle was that it sounded like your dad's Qualcomm lawnmower. There's a bit of annoying wind noise from around the A-pillars when you're out on the road in the new Beetle, and driver vision ain't brilliant thanks to those thick A-pillars which stupidly have tweeters and speakers at the bottom to make them even thicker, about 10 inches thick in fact. Not a good idea. And while we're picking up on the Beetle's negative points, the rear headroom is an absolute joke. But the new Beetle's plus points outweigh the bad by about, well, 100 to 1. The Beetle isn't just making a comeback, it's doing it in style. The execution is phenomenally good. The car looks great in pictures, on motor show stands and on the road where it counts. It makes fellow drivers smile and wave. And like all Golfs, remember, I keep saying this, it's nothing more than a Golf under the skin. It drives superbly.
Volkswagen are very keen to point out that the Bora is neither the Golf or the Passat, that it has an identity all of its own. And in fact there will be a coupe version and an estate version of the Bora to come pretty soon. But no matter what those chaps at VW have to say, I reckon one glance at this car tells you instantly which family it belongs to. The Bora, however, is very different to those two. It's named after the strong winds that sweep along the Adriatic coast, and the Bora itself sweeps in with a fresh new look. Inside the cabin there is plenty of space, both for the driver, the passenger, and surprisingly for the people that sit up the back. It has the same high quality feeling in here that you get in the new Golf and also in the Passat. Everything feels very solidly built, and there are a few really well designed touches. I love the easy pump action on the chairs, they're very comfortable. I love the way things have been dampened. It's a really nice touch and something you'd often find on a far more expensive car. And I also like the round dials and the way they light up an luminous blue when you're driving at night. Plus, as you'd expect in a Volkswagen, even the entry-level model comes with a very impressive list of goodies. When the Bora goes on sale in the spring, there are 5 engines in the range for you to choose from. 3 petrol versions, a 1.6 entry level, a rather more sporting 2 litre, and if it's refined power that you're after, then this V5 with a 2.3 litre under the bonnet will be the one for you. And if diesels are your thing, then there are 2 for you to go at. There's a 90 brake horsepower TDI and the superb 110. Now, it's been very impressive under the bonnet of the Passat, and there's no reason why it won't be just as good in the Bora. Another great feature is ESP, or Electronic Stability Programme. Now, it's available as an option on all the models for a few £100, but comes as standard on this V5 version. Now, its intelligent system senses if a wheel is starting to lose grip, and what it does is start to apply the brakes before there's any possibility of you getting into trouble. A very handy gadget to have. There are also plenty of extras for you to choose from, like satellite navigation, which is one gadget that I reckon pretty soon most of us won't be able to do without. If you've ever wasted hours trying to find your destination, then I reckon that £2.5 spent on one of these gadgets to get a satellite to guide you there is actually money pretty well spent. The Bora is a wonderful blend of Volkswagen at its very best. It's a superb mixture of style, comfort, build quality and safety in an affordable package. It's the car that you never knew you needed, a car that bridges the gap between the hatchback and the saloon.
Beautiful shores of Lake Geneva and Volkswagen's new small car, the Lupo. Why do they need a small car? After all, they've got the Polo. Well, the answer is, over the years, Polo has grown into one of the biggest super minis. It's almost the same length and weight as the original Mark I Golf. So Volkswagen say there's room for a new small car contender. Now, while Lupo is small, in interior space in the front and passenger side at least, it's very generous. Volkswagen claim that this area is the same size as their Volkswagen Polo, and in the press release they say that's the same size as a medium saloon car. Not quite sure about that statement, and there isn't an awful lot of elbow room on my side, that's for sure. But very generous headroom and lots of leg and hip room, certainly in this car. Comfortable supportive seats for a small car in this price range, and with the Swiss insistence that you stick to their very tight speed limits, and we're told radar traps everywhere, not a huge opportunity to exploit the performance and handling, but certainly cruising round Lake Geneva seems perfectly adequate. This is the 1.4 litre 75 brake horsepower engine. Nice 5-speed gearbox, typically Volkswagen in the way it performs as well. Although it does gulp somewhat on the auto route when you engage the optional air conditioning. If you like the rather extreme colour of this particular car, then you won't mind all these areas of painted metal inside. Personally, I think I'd prefer it if they were properly trimmed. But certainly this is no cut price special. Volkswagen are underlining the amount of equipment that will be available on the car. The chassis engineers have paid a lot of attention to ride comfort in this car, and it doesn't pitch and jolt as so many ultra small cars tend to do. In fact, the ride in the back is quite smooth, even if there isn't very much in the way of legroom. Lupo shares its cheeky styling with Seat's Arosa, already on sale in the UK. Different front end, and another major difference, Volkswagen say this car has a fully galvanised body shell guaranteed against corrosion for 12 years. Why this car should have that guarantee and the Arosa doesn't is anybody's guess. This is the 1 litre 54 brake horsepower version of the car, and it'll form the entry-level model in the UK. Understandably less lively than the 1.4 litre Big Brother, but nonetheless very lively around town. And although it's going to be the base version, still well equipped. Decent electric windows, good seats, twin airbags, passenger and driver, and head restraints for all 5 occupants. And despite it being the 1 litre version, it's very smooth and refined at motorway speed. Now, I know Jeremy Clarkson always rubbishes diesels, but in this particular installation, you have to say it makes an awful lot of sense. 70 miles an hour on the auto route, and the diesel version of Lupo is definitely not as smooth and quiet as either the 1 litre or the 1.4. Nevertheless, it's got a maximum speed of 97 miles an hour, so it's not short on performance, and it's capable of delivering, in this lightweight body, 78 miles to the gallon. So that puts the petrol cars firmly in their place. As you'd expect for a small, light car with a wheel virtually at each corner and generous tyre size, handling is agile and nippy, power steering is light and responsive and very easy to place the car on the road. And it's also an exceptionally easy car to drive. A lot of people are going to learn in a Lupo. So what are Lupo's competitors? Well, obviously the Ford car springs immediately to mind. Renault didn't bring the Twingo into the UK market, which I think was a mistake. And then you've got a plethora of Japanese and Korean mini cars that I'm never convinced will really take off in the UK. So you could say Lupo has a pretty good niche in the market. Why should you buy this instead of the Arosa and save yourself quite a lot of money? Well, that's down to equipment and trim levels. Pays you money, takes your choice. For a small car, it's got big doors, and that means easy access to the interior, especially with this fold-down system. Plenty of space in the front, seats are nicely adjustable, and the interior trim on this one is very attractive indeed, in grey and blue. Not sure about the green one we drove earlier. That was just boring. How can Lupo fail? It's well built, well equipped, and the price, certainly on paper, seems to be right. It's fitted with well-proven Volkswagen components, the colours are bright, the interiors are nice. So, it's going to sell. And the fleet people say even if there's a recession, then the fleet market could well downsize into vehicles like this. Volkswagen appear to have it all ways.
In a world that's constantly changing, it's nice to know that some things can always be relied upon. For years, that's how Volkswagen have marketed Europe's biggest selling car, the Golf. And it's good to know that even though there's now a new Golf on sale, it's still as reassuringly familiar as the old version. In fact, market research by the chaps at Volkswagen have proved that the Golf buyer didn't want to see anything radically different with the Golf Mark IV. So instead of huge changes of styling, this new version instead offers new levels of quality, comfort and safety. The new range is packed with models, but this is likely to be the most popular. This is the petrol 1.6 version with more power and better fuel economy than the old 1.8. This 100 brake horsepower unit has already had a very successful outing in the Audi A3, and there's no reason why it shouldn't be just as popular in the new Golf. This is the SE version and it'll set you back £14,820. Now in the looks department, glamorous and exciting, it isn't. But that means that it's got the kind of looks that would appeal to just about anyone. The differences on this new version are subtle. The angle of the windscreen, new headlights, changes to the bumpers. The whole thing is evolutionary rather than revolutionary. Inside here, however, it's a very different story. VW have gone all out for quality. The new Passat really made headlines for that, and the Golf doesn't let it down. Volkswagen, you see, have a group purchasing strategy. This means that all their cars right across the group share certain components. That means VW can buy them in huge quantities, which makes them cheaper. So they can afford to make the interiors and the components of a very high quality, meaning you get the kind of luxury you really wouldn't expect in a car of this level. Just take a look at all this. A very classy choice of interior upholstery. Chrome door handles. Dampened interior fittings, beautifully engineered cup holders in both the front and the back, a backlit blue instrument panel with red needles, a top-class factory-fitted stereo, and, paying attention to the minutest of details, look at the way the ties for the parcel shelf roll back into place when they're not in use. Yes, the inside of the new Golf is without doubt a most pleasant place to be. You instantly feel at home in here. The seating position is very comfortable and the seat adjusts to just about every position imaginable. The steering wheel also adjusts for both height and reach. And generally, because Golf Mark IV is a much larger car, most of the benefit is felt in here. There's plenty of space, quite a lot more than before, for both the driver and the passengers. First impressions are that it feels a bit sluggish when pulling off. But build up the revs and you'll find the 1.6 has a good mid-range and a surprisingly punchy top end. According to the men from VW, and I have no reason to doubt them, you'll get to 60 in around 11 seconds and up to a top speed, if you want it, of 117 miles per hour. The handling feels as safe and as predictable as you'd expect from what after all is a family car. However, the wheels do respond quickly to the steering wheel and the grip is extremely good. But I have to say that it's the kind of car that feels more at home on long stretches of road or motorways rather than twisty-turny bends. Overall, the driving experience isn't particularly involving or exciting, but as you'd expect from VW, it's solid, it's reliable and it's comfortable. You can, however, drive in the knowledge that this is a very safe car. The side pillars have been strengthened. There are now driver, passenger and side airbags as standard. Seatbelt pretensioners are also fitted. And the body structure has been designed to absorb the greatest amount of crash energy if you do have a collision. In fact, there are so many new safety features that the insurance ratings for the whole of the new Golf's range have been greatly reduced. Overall, the new Golf is an outstanding combination of comfort, build quality, reliability and value for money. Yes, it's nice to know that some things do never change.